So today I'm going to show you how we heat tanzanites and why. This is how does the gemstone look initially. If you look through it at the light, you will notice a range of violet, blue, purple and brownish hues. 1 second. I move to another spot for better light. Let's look at it again. A very beautiful view we have here from our little workshop. By the way, only tanzanites have such a unique combination of colors. Do you see? Here it's blue, and here it's brownish purple. Another angle gives us deep violet. Change the angle, blue again. Only tanzanites do such a trick. Sometimes they can show blue, green, brown and purple at the same time. This one exactly demonstrates 3 colors. You can tell by the way light goes through it that's a gemstone. But if you look at the same stone like that without the light, you'll see just a black piece, maybe with a slight hint of purple. So it looks so dark due to tiny particles spread inside. And we're going to solve this problem applying heat. To run the experiment I have to buy it. I don't need such a huge tanzanite. I picked up something more modest. I know that you like asking about the prices. So this one, for example, I bought for $800. It's not a perfect sample, I can tell that there are some problems inside. Will be interesting to see what happens after cutting, and even more interesting what happens after heating, because the result is unpredictable in this case. So what is exactly the problem? When you look at the light, you can see tiny crackles inside. So we don't know for sure if it's gonna fall apart during cutting or not. We'll see. The same about heating. I want to take you through the whole process, so you could see the before and after. But before we heat it, we need to pre-shape it. It's the stage before the cut.
The first step, there's like a crack here, I want to remove that.
So first of all, we want to look at inclusions to get rid of them. Now you see why I almost never record the cutting process. Because it's too boring. You don't get to see the stone itself. So now it's pre-shaped. So at this stage we have already lost 80% of weight. I bought it for $800, meanwhile the ready-cut tanzanite usually costs $800 per carat. Today you'll understand why. So at pre-shaping we lost more than half of weight already. But even after that there is still a crackle. Let me try and find where is it. So because of this crackle, there is still a chance that during heating it will fall apart. And then it will be $800 wasted. Today it's gloomy, really difficult to show something due to dark light. Do you see that chip at the edge? It continues straight to the inner crackle. It goes just along the edge of my nail. So as I told you, it might just break when being heated. It's 50-50. And let's pay attention to the color again. Actually, the color of the stone is blue, but tiny inclusions kinda blur it. That's why we are going to heat it. To melt those inclusions and release the color. The first step is to layer the special refractory paste on a foil and bury our tanzanite in it. The paste will prevent the gemstone from fusing with foil. Now he's piercing the foil, so to let the pressure and heated air to be released later. And now it's time for our super nanotechnology, also known as a gas heater. 15 minutes will increase the temperature up to 400 Celsius approximately. After that we'll need to wait about an hour and a half or 2 hours to let it cool down. What may happen to the tanzanite, by the way? The color may become even worse, or it may not change at all, or turn into blue, but not still remain pale or blurry. It may crack as well. It's also possible that after heating it will turn blue, but it also will get a lot of quite ugly inclusions, or it will be blurred. So basically the heating is a roulette game. You never know what will be in the end. Now it's time to open it. You can see that the foil is fully burned. And now we just clean it off the dust and finally we'll see the result. Well, so far we have got a pretty blue color. Let's look at the light. Yeah, that's very good. The heating didn't make the crackle look worse. I actually chatted a little bit with the local guy, he's also our partner. So he explained that when the experienced workers do the heating, the risk is approximately 30% that something goes wrong. And if we are dealing with something what is new, for example some type of gemstone which they hadn't played with, in this case it's 50-50 game, you never know. So you can just lose everything in 20 minutes. The next stage is to cut the stone and see if it still will be satisfying in terms of quality. The cutting is no less risky operation than heating. Even after that, something may go wrong and the stone will fall apart. But at least now we can see why did we do the heating. In beginning the stone was brownish dirty purple color, and after the heating all the tiny particles have been melted. Therefore the stone has revealed its initial color. Okay. And here what we have got after the heating and cutting. Maybe not the top quality color and clearness, but still quite pretty. In total we have lost about 60% of the initial weight. So now we're just going to sum up and talk one more time about why do we heat the stones, and if there is any point in buying uncut and not heated tanzanites. Excuse me for the background noise, it's raining today, but what to do? So one more time. Heated and not heated tanzanites. Which is better to buy? First of all, why do we heat the gemstones? It's a very common situation when the gemstone doesn't look pretty right after being mined. It can be pale or blurry or just ugly in color. And in order to make it look better, we need to heat it. And there are two ways to do that actually. The first one, which we have seen, in my personal opinion, is very natural one. And I don't think that there is something wrong with that. We have a lot of situations when the gemstones obtain their beautiful color due to some bushfire, for example. Let's take sapphire in Madagascar. They usually lie in the layer, which is no more than 5 centimeters deep. And every time when the fire in the forest takes place, the gemstones are heated. Of course, the temperature is not high enough. However, if it happens several times in a row, eventually the gemstone obtains the proper color, just like after heating, which we applied in our case. Another example when the nature actually does the job of heating for us is when deposits lie in the area near volcanoes. That's why personally I have a very positive attitude to the heating of gemstones. Because as I mentioned before, this is a natural thing to happen, and we see many examples of it in the real world. So generally what does the heating do? It actually melts all type of not pretty inclusions, like tiny clouds or tiny bubbles. Literally anything what makes the gemstone look not so much bright and pretty as it can be. I will actually make some other videos with sapphires later, so you'll see how does it work. In most cases the gemstone before the heating looks pale or blurry, it doesn't show a proper color. And only after heating we can see its real beauty. Why does it happen? Because as I've mentioned, the heat makes all these inclusions melt. Probably they turned into some kind of the glass, which is transparent or something else. I do apologize if some professional gemologists are watching my video. I'm not a specialist in gemology, so probably I'm not using proper scientific terms. But I just want other people like me to understand the process, and that's why I put it in a really simplistic way. So as soon as we melt all the inclusions, gemstone can actually show its true color and true transparency. Only on a very rare occasions we might be able to find a sapphire which doesn't have any inclusions at all. And that is how we know what the final color shall be like. So that one very rare example would be a golden standard. And when we're hitting other gemstones, we're trying to achieve the same level of saturation and the same clear and bright color as we have in that original version. Let's call it that way. What is the difference between heated and not heated gemstone? I think there is not any. In both cases it's still natural gemstone. In both cases it will be still valuable. Unfortunately, quite recently people started to combine heating with other techniques. They don't just heat the stones, they also glaze with glass, or apply some other metals, or get it irradiated or apply chemicals. That kind of techniques I don't approve. There is very specific range of gemstones which can be treated with some sort of certain ways, but that is appropriate only in a very limited amount of cases. However, when people take very ugly gemstone of very poor quality, melt the inclusions, cover it with color agents and glass, and apply some irradiation, for example, well, I don't think that this is an honest way to treat the gemstone and still call it natural after that. Because all of the mentioned above techniques have nothing to do with natural process. They're all made by human hands, and therefore some of the effects might be reversible. For example, the color agent can vapor or fade over time, but heating is very much okay, as I explained before. Because if we take sapphires, for example, only 1 out of 1000 will be bright blue without heating. If we are talking about Paraiba tourmalines, it will be the same situation. There are no bright Paraiba color tourmalines without heating. It's just not possible to get the proper color straight out of the ground. And tanzanites are the same. You always heat tanzanites. You actually have seen it with your own eyes. If you watch the previous video from the market in Arusha, you will see the crystals of tanzanites just the way they come out of the ground. In this video you also saw how did it look before the treating. It was blurred and not clear in color. And I have doubt if any one of you would like to buy something looking like that. So you have to remember that tanzanites are always heated. Not all of them are blue though. There are also yellow tanzanites, pink tanzanites and deep violet tanzanites. I wouldn't say that they look extremely pretty. However, they always cost a lot of money, just because they are rare. And such gemstones, they're supposed to be the object for the collection. They cost $100,000. So it's not a gemstone to wear actually, it's a gemstone to put in a safe. I still wouldn't call it a good investment, because I doubt that it will be easy to find the buyer for the pink unheated tanzanite after 10 or 12 years. The next question from you was, could the heated stones be expensive and can they be a good investment? Yes, they definitely can. For example, tanzanites, Paraiba tourmaline, pigeon blood heated rubies, royal blood heated sapphires, polychrome sapphires from Madagascar, all of them are usually heated, and that's not the end of the list. However, all of them are heated, and all of them are very good option for investing money. Some of them have grown several times in prices over last years. If you compare the prices even today and 2 years ago, you will already be able to see the difference. And yes, they can be very expensive. Let's take Paraiba tourmalines, for example. They're always heated as I told before, but they cost hundreds, thousands of dollars. And actually the same situation with rubies and sometimes with tanzanites. The next question, which stones must not be heated? So first of all, if you get a tourmaline which is heated, you have to be very much alarmed. We're not talking about Paraiba tourmaline. We're talking about any other colors, but Paraiba, because if it's heated it means that it was initially of a very poor quality, and therefore it wasn't just heated but most probably also treated with color agents or other chemicals which affected the color. So big no-no to heated tourmalines if it's not a Paraiba. The same situation with garnets. Initially garnets are very pretty stones which are bright and clear as they are. Therefore if it's heated, it means that there were some serious defects in the very beginning. Maybe it had some crackle and they had to heat it and glaze it with glass to hide this. I will explain for you to understand the process. When they hit the stone, the material expands, and therefore you can access the crackle and pour the glass into it and let it freeze. Just like that. The heated garnet is the defective garnet. That's why you will never find something like that in my collection. Another gemstone which must not be heated under any circumstances is spinel. Doesn't matter which color. Gray, blue, purple, mahenge, whichever. No treatment. Otherwise it will tell us that initially the quality was just so much bad that they were not able to sell it without any additional manipulations. And again, like an example with garnets, if they hit the spinel, they don't just hit it. They also play some other dirty tricks, but the rest gems are fine. So technically now you see that there are two options how to heat the gemstone. Option number 1 is just apply the high temperature. Option number 2, apply the high temperature and some artificial procedures. And I don't support the second one, because it's not fair. The next question is, will the heated stones change their characteristics after some period of time? Yes, I've heard a lot of internet critics saying that the heated gemstone is not good because it will lose the brightness or saturation after a few months. However, I've been wearing jewelry with heated sapphires and with heated rubies and tourmalines for years, and many of you actually have been doing the same. Some of you also bought heated gemstones from us. And not even one of them has lost the brightness or color characteristics. Therefore, just another internet legend, which has nothing to do with truth. I have seen a lot of articles and videos about that, but I've never seen it happening in real life. If we are talking about the gemstones which were treated with color agents and then glazed with glass, well, that kind of gemstone can lose its color if you leave it under the sun, for example. I've seen that happening for sure, but if it's just the heated gemstone, it will be fine even after years. And we also need to talk about if it's a good idea to buy uncut stone or not. So you remember that in the beginning I bought for $800 about 16-carat tanzanite. After cutting there were only left 5 carats. The question is it worth of it in terms of economy? In my opinion, it's not. Because as I mentioned before, even if you have brilliant masters in cutting and heating, there is still a 30% chance to lose the stone, because there is no way to see the possible crackles or inclusions which will affect the process of cutting or which will cause the crashing of the stone into pieces when you have only a crystal. You also might encounter a very interesting phenomenon when the gemstone itself is just gray, but covered with a thin colored layer. And it looks like it's a pink diamond or green tourmaline or purple tanzanite. But when you start cutting the gemstone and you slice off the colorful layer, you see that inside it's just gray, and that can be very disappointing. Another aspect to be considered is that even the best of the best in cutting will never be able to tell you how many percentage of the crystal you'll have to lose when cutting. It might be 50%, which is very good actually, or it can be 70%. Therefore, I would say that buying a uncut gemstone is just like buying a cat in the bag. But even if you are very lucky at the stage of cutting, nobody will guarantee that you will be the same lucky on the stage of heating. Besides the fact that it can fall apart as well, it might be the situation when the color changes in an unpredictable way. For example, there was the famous story in the world of gemstone lovers and professionals, when the owner of a really expensive royal blue color sapphire decided to heat it to get rid of some tiny bubble in the center of the gemstone. And after this operation it turned into completely dark green ugly color. Therefore he lost money, as that kind of new green sapphire won't cost as much as the previous royal blue version. And there are dozens of stories like that, when stones just fall apart or crack or change color in a not desirable way. Honestly, if I was an average person who just wants to get a gemstone for themselves, I wouldn't buy uncut or not heated gemstone. Indeed, you don't have to pay much to cutting master or the heating master. They'll take no more maybe than $20 or $40 for their job. But I still don't want to play guess what happens next game. And that's why personally I also usually go for an option of a ready gemstone. It's easy for me as well, because I don't have to worry about the color, if it's going to change or not. And that is important. Just imagine a situation when a customer wants me to find, let's say, scarlet red garnet, and I find the crystal of that color. But after the cutting, due to the changing of the pattern inside the gemstone, the light goes in a different way through it. and therefore the gemstone looks pink now. My customer wouldn't be happy with that, wouldn't he? That is why I always get the precise characteristic of the gemstone you want to get. For example, you want exactly purple-pink spinel, or royal blue sapphire, or polychrome spinel, or just pure mahenge spinel, doesn't matter. I will be looking exactly for that, already cut and heated if necessary. Because otherwise I would have to buy, for example, 5 tanzanites. Then 2 of them will crack during cutting. 2 of them will be spoiled after heating, and just 1 will be exactly what we need. The question will be, who is going to pay for the rest 4 gemstones? And other people will just include the cost of the other 4 into the final one. But I don't want to do that. I do believe that the relationship between you and me must be 100% honest and transparent. Of course, for me it means that probably I will be paying way more for the stone, but I believe it's worth of it. Also, some people ask me if they can buy and cut a not heated stone from me. They believe that it costs not so much. But as you saw, even uncut and unheated, it might cost hundreds of dollars. And I don't think that hundreds of dollars is nothing, especially taking into consideration the risks mentioned above. However, if you want exactly that, I can do that. Although I won't be able to guarantee that you will get any satisfying result at all. It will be your and only your risk to take. So that's pretty much it about the heated tanzanites and gemstone in general. If you have any kind of questions, leave them in comments below the video. And see you next time. Take care. Bye bye.